ESPN will let Stephen A. Smith say just about anything under the sun, politics, players' wives, personal insults, and call it entertainment.
Few moments later.
Ryan Clark was right, and ESPN owes him and Kyren Lacy an apology. Let me start by saying this. Sometimes the truth makes people uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Ryan Clark spoke the truth, and now ESPN, this corporate machine that claims to stand for integrity, is making him apologize for it. I'm sorry, but no, you don't get to paint a man like Kairen Lacy as a criminal, destroy his name, then force the one person who stood up for him to say sorry after the evidence proves he was innocent. That's not journalism, that's cowardice.
Yes, please. Yes. I beg your pardon. I did want to clear space for this.
1 second, please.
This is important.
Yes, guys, Kyren Lacy was supposed to be in the NFL. Kyren Lacy was accused of something and being investigated for something that he didn't do, and he died having to live with the guilt and the consequences of a guilty man knowing he was innocent. It recently was discovered that he was 72 yards away from the crash, that police and state policemen tried to coerce and doctor and use ways to manipulate statements that put this young man behind bars. They changed his joy, they changed his life, and eventually he took his own life. This was supposed to be a career, but at least he was supposed to be here. At some point throughout his career, I would expect to have said his name. So I'm gonna say his name tonight.
Amen.
Kyren Lacy was innocent. Kyren Lacy should be here with us. Nothing will ever repair or replace the pain that their parents, that his parents have to feel and his loved ones have to feel. But we could say his name. There were so many stations that ran the fact that he was being investigated. So I wanted to make sure here with Scott, we could say that he was an innocent man and at least know that he has that as he rests.
You and I talked about this earlier tonight, and I'll just share with them what I share with you. I can't recall ever seeing something that made me react viscerally to the point that I felt like my hands were trembling to think that there's video that shows that this is not at all what happened, and that young man took his life. And so I will not say anymore. It's your thoughts here. I just wanted to echo.
Thank you very much.
No, and my apologies for forgetting that, because this is a more important thing than what we're talking about tonight. Ryan Clark, I appreciate you always.
Kyren Lacy wasn't just another athlete. He was a young man who overcame challenging circumstances, earned a spot at LSU, and dedicated himself to a program that was supposed to protect him. Then one accusation, one false claim, became the headline of his life. The weight of that lie, the guilt, the pain of watching the world turn on him, it crushed him. And when the truth finally came out, when the video showed what really happened, it was too late.
Yeah, so what you'll see is in the top left of the screen, you're going to see multiple cars just making their way south to Thibodaux, coming from Vacherie. At some point in time, you're going to see the collision, which we're going to know is vehicle number 2 from oncoming traffic colliding with the vehicle of Mr. Hall. You will see another vehicle come to a stop, and then you'll see Kyren Lacy come to a stop.
So as we've seen the video, it looks like the impact happens, and then Kyren Lacy is behind him. How far away was he from there?
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of the investigative report that I now have my hands on. We know from data that Kyren Lacy did in fact pass 4 cars. There's no disputing that. Further north, Kyren Lacy passed 4 cars. However, he was back in his lane of travel, 92.3 yards. Back in his lane, behind Mr. Hall. At the time of impact, he's 72.6 yards behind the vehicles at the time of impact. Keyword, behind the vehicles. That is not how this story was ever painted. Never.
Any part of the district attorney's investigation that talked about Mr. Lacy getting back, I guess we call it, what do you call it, correcting or getting in your proper lane?
Sure, he was back in his proper lane according to their data. This isn't my expert. This is the investigation of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office. So I'm here simply comparing and contrasting the District Attorney's Office with state police in this matter, their investigations. And in that investigation.
Real quick, if you're rocking with the channel, do me one quick favor. hit that subscribe button and join the movement. Here at Sports Impact Media, we're dropping the hottest takes, the funniest roasts, and the realest breakdowns in sports and culture. So don't just watch, be part of the family. Click subscribe, turn on that bell so you never miss when we cook somebody up, and let's keep building this thing together. Now, ESPN wants Ryan Clark, a man who's dedicated his post-playing career to speaking with honesty and compassion, to bow his head and read a corporate-approved apology because his words didn't align with company standards. Give me a break.
On Monday night's Sports Center, I addressed the horrific car crash that took Mr. Hall's life and also the subsequent tragic events that led to the death of Kyren Lacy. In full transparency, y'all, I knew Kyren Lacy personally, but nothing matters to me more than the truth. I always strive to do my best to mix authenticity with the most complete and up-to-date information available. I failed to do that on Monday night based on the subsequent evidence that has been released by the Louisiana State Police Department. I set the highest standards of fairness and, most importantly, righteousness in my work. I didn't meet that standard. But since I've spoken to Kyren's representation at length, and I've also reached out to a representative at the state police office just to have a conversation. They informed me this morning that because it's ongoing litigation, they actually can't divulge anything else. It's always important to me that I gather all factual and important information to provide the complete story. That's a responsibility that I do not take lightly. And when discussed in real time on Monday evening, I failed to do so. And for that, I apologize.
Last week, the attorney for former LSU football player Kyren Lacy released a video challenging the version of events Louisiana State Police used to cite Lacy in a December auto accident which claimed the life of 78-year-old Herman Hall. On Tuesday, state police released a video and records defending their initial findings that alleged Lacy's operation of the vehicle created a chain of events that resulted in the crash that claimed Hall's life. Lacy's car is seen moving at a high rate of speed in the wrong lane just prior to the incident. Lacy faced several charges, including felony negligent homicide, but died by suicide days before a grand jury was set to convene, meaning his guilt or innocence will not be tried in a criminal court. The one certainty here is that this was a senseless tragedy in December, and it's magnified by a second life lost in April. I apologize for the incomplete reaction that aired on this show on Monday night.
Ryan didn't spread gossip. He didn't exploit the story for clicks. He spoke from his heart, drawing on experience and facts that later proved true. And yet somehow, in this upside-down media world, telling the truth gets you punished, while being first to post a lie gets you promoted. Let's call it like it is. ESPN has become a fear factory. They don't care about the truth. They care about lawsuits and brand image. It's all PR, all the time. The second there's a whiff of controversy, they send out the "we do not condone" emails, roll out the forced apologies, and hope the internet forgets. But we shouldn't forget this because a young man lost his life, a family lost a son, and the people responsible for spreading lies, for framing him as guilty before the facts came out, they'll never apologize. They'll never feel the weight that Ryan Clark clearly does every time he speaks about this. The media landscape has turned into a feeding frenzy. Say something first, fact check later. And if you destroy a life in the process, oh well. There'll be another headline tomorrow. That's not reporting, that's blood sport. And Ryan Clark stood up in the middle of it and said, "No, I'm not going to let this young man's story be twisted." He used his platform to defend someone who couldn't defend himself. And now he's the one being forced to eat humble pie on live TV. How twisted is that? You know what's wild? ESPN will let StephenASmith say just about anything under the sun, politics, players' wives, personal insults, and call it entertainment. But Ryan Clark speaks from his soul about a tragedy, and suddenly it's under review. This isn't just about Ryan. It's about the system. The same system that chews up athletes, coaches, and even analysts, and spits them out the moment they stop being profitable. The same system that's more afraid of legal letters than it is of losing its humanity. Ryan Clark didn't deserve to be silenced. He deserved to be thanked, because in a time when everyone was rushing to point fingers, he chose compassion. He chose integrity. And he did it at a time when the truth still mattered. I don't care what ESPN's lawyers say. I don't care how polished their PR statements sound. They owe Ryan Clark an apology, and they owe Kyren Lacy's family some peace. We can't keep letting companies rewrite reality every time the truth makes them uncomfortable. Ryan Clark didn't fail ESPN. ESPN failed him. And most importantly, they failed Kyren Lacy, because when it mattered most, when courage was needed, they chose silence over truth. And that's something no apology can ever fix.
We also try to cover news that we feel is good for people to learn, potentially provide a little bit more context. On Monday, we learned of a video that was made publicly available by Kyren Lacy's lawyer. In it, what we thought showed more context to the accident that inevitably led to the tragic loss of 2 lives, with Herman Hall, who dies in a car accident, and then Kyren Lacy, who later ends up killing himself because of the fallout of everything in which he was accused. We thought we had more context. Now more video has been made publicly available, and it shows even more context, where Kyren Lacy is driving on the wrong side of the road and could have very easily made the case that he caused the car to swerve and cause the tragic accident. We apologize for adding any more heat, and will continue to stay on top of the news breakings in this story, because obviously it's tragically sad and involves an athlete's legacy. We'll see you in the next hour.